20,000 years in the future, and you are starting a colony on a new planet. What is sort of your base laws?
Currency is going to be crypto.
Wait, what? Ultimately, you're just trying to improve on what we had here on Earth, right? Trying to eradicate all the bad things.
My assertion is that a lot of the things that we are considering bad are actually just natural things that humans will slide into because they were things that were helpful for us to survive. I agree with what you're saying. Urgency that we have for curiosity theory, for example, is driven by the fact that me and Justin are going to die one day.
Yeah, I think there'll still be time constraints, even if everybody lives forever.
Forever.
Welcome back to Curiosity Theory. It is your co-host, Dr. Dakotah Tyler, aka Dr. Star Kid, astrophysicist, physics professor, and author. With me, I have
the lovely and Zadia co-host, Justin, Mr. Fascinate Shaifer, a science communicator.
Cut his
STEM
mic.
Science communicator, STEM media producer, and lover of phone calls. I like phone calls.
What?
Phone calls.
Who are
with
you?
us joining today, we have, well, a man who needs no introduction in a respectful way.
What up? Maynard Okereke, also known as Hip Hop MD, Hip Hop Science Show. It's always good to be back with my brothers, man. Like I love having these curious conversations and just diving into the random world of science. I mean, this is what we do. And the funny part, I don't think people know. Like we just do this naturally. Like you shut off this mic, you shut off this camera. Like we'll just nerd out on whatever random topics. So it's always dope to be back here, man.
It's dope. Today we're going to be talking about.
Today we're going to be talking about a lot of things. All right, we're going to be nerding out about philosophy, the philosophy of starting civilizations, science fiction, Apple versus iPhone users, and the
Apple versus iPhone users. That's a
very-
civil
that's a
war.
very
Yeah, because they're at war with themselves.
epic
They don't
battle right
realize
there.
it. They don't
Apple
realize it.
versus
They're at
iPhone.
war with themselves. Apple versus Android users, in addition to thinking about what it means to be immortal.
human.
To be human.
What
also.
it means to be human. I
Think
think that's a
human.
good. What does it
Yeah.
mean to be
What
human?
does it mean to be
What does it
human?
mean to be human? Find out right now.
Yeah, here's an interesting question. What if you had, let's say that we're 20,000 years in the future, and you are like starting a colony on a new planet. What is sort of your base laws? Like, what are some of the main guidelines that you have, like stipulations that you would require for your society? Which, I mean, ideally, right, you're trying to set up something that's going to last and be fair, or maybe not. Like, maybe you want to do like a dictator thing. Or
Well,
whatever.
the currency is going to be crypto.
Okay.
All right?
Be crypto? Why?
Be crypto because it's more efficient than traditional fiat.
So
currency.
But you're already assuming though that your technological structure is a certain way.
You're starting a new society. This is like going to be your version of utopia, and your first law is something about meme coins.
Yeah, I was trolling.
Oh, okay. All right. I just wanted you to admit that.
And I still have a beef to pick with you because you sucked me in.
Whoa.
This man actually kind of
Oh,
conned
this is
me.
great. This is great.
In a way, he
This is
kind of
good.
conned me. You conned me. You sucked me into your little Bitcoin. I got this like Bitcoin artwork, and you should invest
rug
in
pulled
it.
him?
We had a
collection.
he had a whole release party where they're releasing all this stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. I invested like $400 into this, and then he just disappeared. Nothing. I don't know what the hell happened
bro.
to it.
I got respected.
Got a rug,
And then
rug
never
on.
said nothing. Never
So-
said nothing. To this day, I don't know where.
So-
and then I forget what wallet that was, but it doesn't even exist anymore.
The wallet doesn't exist. Well, that's not my fault.
It's kind of your fault. It was kind of your because you kind of you kind of guaranteed me like this is the way to go. Like you got to do this. You got to. Everybody's doing it, and I
Really?
did it because of you. Because I had faith in you. I was like, man, he knows what he's doing. I study you and me. We're like, oh yeah, we've been studying this. I was like, okay.
You know what else he
Let me put a
studies?
little bit of my coin in here and see what happens.
bro.
Disappeared.
Can't trust
To
him,
this day,
bro.
I don't
He
know what
also
happened to my
studies
money.
the 48 laws of power, so he knows how to manipulate.
Jesus Christ.
Hey, bro.
This is
I'm coming in
this is
hot
a
right
Justin
now, okay?
roast? What is going on here?
Nah, bro. I saw your Audible history.
All right. So first things first, I did start an NFT collection.
Yeah.
I don't feel ashamed about it. I think everyone was kind of rugged by it, in a way.
Not me.
Like, well, I'm saying everyone that collectively, because value, right, is an arbitrary thing,
Yeah.
right? And we collectively buy into this idea of value in everything, like the podcast, right? We believe that a podcast will be more valuable in the future than it is today. Therefore, we invest time, energy, money into that. That's the same thing that happened with us, and that was the impetus for us creating the collection in the first place. The cryptocurrency, though, the underlying currency that you would have to use to buy the NFTs, Ethereum, is actually more valuable today than it was then. So, yeah. So if you actually also like held a lot of Ethereum on the side, you would have appreciated your investment would have appreciated.
Yeah. So it's like you're sort of you're like right, but you had to be right about a specific thing that
Right.
uses that. But overall, they're safe bet, or maybe like you want to make a lot of bets because something is probably gonna.
Yeah. I do think that the currency, like I still believe in the idea of 92% of all currency today is digital. It's virtual currency, right? And so the system is kind of inefficient specifically for a few use cases. Like one is when you're trying to transfer large sums of money, right now it takes like multiple days and there's a lot of checks and balances, and then the bank takes a huge percentage of that fee. But if you transfer it via a cryptocurrency, you can actually sidestep all those processes. So there's a lot of specific use cases. Another one is in Africa, actually. A lot of countries, a lot of people don't trust the currency of their country. And so in a place like that, they have more trust in a trustless system that is decentralized than a
But I don't know if it's necessarily they don't trust their government.
Yeah,
handling the currency,
Right.
Because the government is the issue. Because the money's there, right? The money's there is going to be in place. It's just not getting distributed properly.
So they don't trust the value of the currency, or they don't believe the government will handle the currency well. And so in that case, I think a decentralized currency can be helpful. But no, that's not.
But see the point. Going back to now having that as the base of your new civilization. You also have, just like we just talked about how you con me, right? Like, if you're going to start off a civilization with everybody just creating whatever arbitrary coin they want to make, that's not structured enough to be able to begin a civilization with. We can do that now as we are as a civilization because we started off with this foundation of this currency, however wrong or misguided it was. It gave a structure, you know what I'm saying? And then we were able to work from there and then empower the people later on to be able to be somewhat trustworthy or build trust into people. But if you're going to start a brand new civilization on a completely new planet or whatever, and you're just going to give every random person the ability to just create whatever arbitrary coin they want to be able to dictate the entire country, that just sets it off on a bad precedence already.
Well, I think it has to be one mutually agreed upon currency that everybody ascribes value to. It wouldn't, and then everybody.
So what's even the point? I don't even see the use case now anymore of it being some.
Because now it's decentralized.
You just created a centralized digital, but it's completely centralized.
Well, if it's centralized, that means that it is controlled by the government. But so it can still be decentralized and be the one currency that most people use if it's not controlled by the government.
Okay.
Are
there any other rules on your society?
Well, because right,
I didn't even. I said that was a troll. It's a troll response.
no,
all right, let's move on to the next thing. What are like some of your laws that you would have?
All right, so
Or
ground
the
rules.
guidelines.
So ground rules. Dang, that's a good question. Ground rules. I think I'd want there to be a scientific mission that kind of a lot of the population is aligned on. That kind of gives the society a North Star and like some hope for the future, whether that be like expansion, progress, expansion of the habitat, progress of our understanding of the world, or something like that. I think that would give people something to unite behind.
I'm with you because that was my first thought was having a society where science and technology is at the core of our society, where it's like the most like intrinsic value. Everybody knows like, hey, this is what our country is aiming for. This is how we're going to advance to the future, and this is how we're going to keep people healthy and safe is by investing in technology. And you think about that from like because and it's kind of two-sided in a way, right? Because you think about like right now, school education system, right? If we had every school like a STEM-based school, which in my eyes should be, right? Every school should have a STEM-based program at the core, right? Because that's how you're going to be able to develop.
So you hate the humanities?
No, it's not that I hate the no. See, two parts can be true. I can want a STEM-based
Answer
school,
this
but
guy.
still.
That's what they say.
But,
When I say STEM is important, that's what they say. They say, oh, well, what about the humanities?
No, because to me, like I shouldn't even say STEM. I should say like a STEAM-based program because
I like that.
incorporating the arts in there. Because I was just having a conversation with somebody just a couple days ago. Arts to me and science are foundationally tied already. If you think about the dopest, most genius art scientists that I know all have some artistic skill set.
Yeah.
They're all like whether it's drawing, singing, production, whatever. Every scientist I know does something artistically. It's just connected. I don't think you can have one without the other. And so the arts to me is foundational. Mm-hmm. So whether that's having music, instrument play, drawing, fashion, design, whatever. To me, that's always going to come hand in hand with anything that you do in some STEM-based program. Now you can go and do the obviously other things you have in classes, history, humanities, whatever, right? I mean, obviously, down
there
the
is
line,
no history on this new planet.
Well, yeah, there is no history on this.
There's human history, right?
There's the human before what we were before we came to the planet.
Yeah.
But why you had that new planet? You probably did something in the place you were before that you don't want people to know about.
So you got to manipulate.
We have history here, but we're already erasing it, right? We're already erasing a lot of history.
You want that to be a part of the other civilization.
Well, hold up. In your history curriculum, you have to choose something. Like you can't. It can't be the entire history of everything and every civilization that happened since the beginning of time, right? Mm-hmm. And you would probably want to hit certain notes that sort of set the tone for mistakes that you don't want to make again, or perhaps like ideas or systems that you do want to iterate on.
Yeah.
So there is like, I think inherently an amount of like engineering in narrative telling.
But that's kind of already what we're doing. That's kind of what we're doing in the U.S.
Yeah.
But
people have you have to do that though.
Yeah, we have to do that. But also erasing the history also dooms us to repeat what we did in the past, right? And that's why they always say history is important. Because if we don't know our history, we're failed to repeat it, right? And so right now, what's the whole thing? You're trying to erase slavery. You're trying to erase information about what happened to indigenous people, right? Like all these things are being slowly erased out of a culture. Mm-hmm. But if we erase that and this new generation that's coming in doesn't know about what we did in the past, we're going to continue to repeat that cycle somewhere in our evolutionary future, right? Ultimately. And so if you start dictating or start picking and choosing what elements are going to be acceptable for the society to know about moving forward, then you're just setting us up for failure eventually. Like if you really want your civilization to evolve and be able to face challenges going to be upcoming, you have to know everything that's happened that's led up to this point that you're currently at.
So you have to curate the information somehow.
Yeah, somehow, right? Like we're expecting every student from the age of 5 to essentially have a PhD in every branch of history.
You don't have to have a PhD. You don't have to be. I'm not saying everybody has to be evolutionary genius about every single thing that happened. But I'm not a history buff, but I know a little bit about obviously Homo sapiens weren't the only species that existed, right? We were all sorts of different.
A lot of people don't know that though.
I know a lot of people don't know that, but not because they weren't allowed to not know, or not because they weren't given the information. Books are out there. You can read. You have to be able to put it out there for people to have a chance to be able to learn about it and for others to educate other people about it. That's why you have people in different roles. That's why you have archaeologists that showcase the stories. That's why we have science communicators that tell about different things so that people that may not be informed in a specific area can learn about certain things, right? And so it's not that the expectation of that society is that they have to know everything that's happened to that point, but they have to have access to the information.
A library. It's a library.
Exactly. So I think for me, foundationally, like I always think about what's the core things that always affect society, right? And you think about every zombie post-apocalyptic movie that ever happens, right? It's never the actual apocalyptic thing that kills people. It's people, right? It always comes down to us. We're always the root cause. Whether it's The Walking Dead, we're always fearful of the people, not the actual disease or virus or whatever. So finding things fundamentally that connects us as humans, right? I think there should be some core value of some structure that we have set up that connects us and showcases that we are all one and we are together. That something that brings us together. And it's tough because the people are probably going to go think, oh, religion, right? Like in a way, that's how religion came, is because it was a way to be able to organize people and give people belief into something, right? But then that also becomes chaotic because now people can declare whatever, faith or whatever belief it is, and then now you start pitting people against, other people. And so it's a very convoluted kind of process. But there
Well-
has to be you have to accept that there's going to be some deviation from good in setting up any sort of society or civilization, because intrinsically as humans, we're always going to be flawed in that sense. We're not robots.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so it kind of sounds like what you're saying, which I totally agree with this, is that you cannot, no matter what your rules are, you cannot legislate away human nature. Like
Mhm.
the reason that in all these zombie movies, which I mean it's never really happened, so this is all like sci-fi made up
Yeah.
stuff, is that what happens is you have a small groups of people that are in factions that are like competing for limited resources,
Mhm.
and they're competing against other people. And I think that that's actually very much more closer to like a hunter-gatherer type of environment. So in Papua New Guinea, this was one of the places that most recently in history basically had, I think, the what we could call colloquially the hunter and gatherer lifestyle preserved, where there was hundreds or thousands of different tribes that all spoke different languages, and they didn't have a bunch of advanced technology, and they also didn't travel far outside of their like territory. Like
Mhm.
if they did, there would be it would be violence. Like they would be there would be war, there would be conflict, and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So for evolutionary biologists, anthropologists, it was an interesting test case to study like early evolution of languages, the early behaviors of like hunter and gatherers that are humans. And I think that we, no matter what rules we try to make, biologically, that's who we are. We are like the small band of people that live together and survive. And like you cannot like short of gene editing some of these traits out of ourselves, which
Yeah.
I almost feel like is what eventually needs to
That
be
could
done or
be
something like
that'd
it.
be very interesting actually. Is like, are we, because what's always kind of a thought process is like, are we going to evolve to the point where we eradicate ourselves, right, and start over, or
Like
start
through
from scratch,
war, like a
through
nuclear
war. I
war
mean,
or
nuclear war. We
something
just
with AI.
eradicate all humanity, right, and then
Mhm.
it just cockroaches left to roam the earth. You know what I'm saying? Like, but if we evolve to that point where we can genetically, eradicate things that predispose us to killing ourselves, that could actually get pretty interesting. If we can get so technological, and think about it, we're getting there, right? Like, I mean, we have brain to human to robotic interfaces, right? So,
BCIs, yeah.
Learning
eye
more
join.
about what genes do certain things as well.
Exactly, right, and how to remove certain diseases or
Mhm.
implement certain things, to we live longer than we've ever lived in our human history, right? And so that ultimately that's the thing we're trying to do, is like, can we find the fountain of youth and live forever, type things, right?
Mhm.
So will we get to a point where we eradicate that human nature element, where we have, we're predisposed to pushing each other away, building our own societies, separating ourselves to where now we are intrinsically together forever, genealogically based. So like that could be interesting mindset for how it would take obviously a millennia to get there,
Mhm.
but technologically we're moving at such a fast pace that could be pretty realistic.
Yeah.
I mean, based on, I would say the thickness of the atmosphere of a lot of the planets that we are looking at as close candidates for colonization, and the environments in general, it just feels like a genetically engineered human would be optimal to live on those environments, or a genetically engineered civilization of humans.
Yep. But we're only doing the genetic variations, right, because we're trying to get there quickly. Eventually we could evolve, you know what I'm saying? It will take millions of years. We could evolve to live somewhere
Oh
else.
yeah, let's just
saying?
take about a million years.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that we just die before that happened. Like an evolution would occur if we went somewhere else, but if you just released all 8 billion people on like Titan, for example, which is a moon of Saturn that has an atmosphere and has liquid methane lakes and oceans, at no point like we wouldn't evolve
I don't
fast
know,
enough to not die.
8 billion of us. There might be one of us that
But
could
that,
live.
I
in
always
that.
think about the right. There could be, and I can't remember. There was
There
some
could be
movie,
what, bro?
There was some movie that that did this or whatever.
It's
but
called
like,
the movie is called Titan, I believe,
it's,
and it's got the dude from Jake. He's Jake Sully from Avatar.
oh yeah.
And they it's an experimentation program where they inject a bunch of people with these different some sort of virus that like helps them rapidly evolve, and then he like flies around on Titan. This is what you're talking about, right?
I think
It's
so. I
literally
think so.
on-
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
but
sounds
he
dope, man. I
thought,
think I've seen
but
that.
he was like
Cool.
the only person that
Everybody else
had this
died.
ability to be able to
Yeah.
survive there, right? And but
Well, he didn't have the ability. They injected him.
they injected him with something
with
that
something
gave
that-
him, yeah. But that could be. I mean, think about what access we have to medicines and whatnot. We're trying to regenerate new limbs and stuff right now, right? And like, so there could be feasibly in the next, I don't know, 100, 150 years, whatever, we get to a point where, okay, we are trying to survive on Mars, let's say, and to this new, this thin atmosphere that's on Mars, and we're trying to find a way to genetically expose ourselves to be able to survive there. Could there be some drug, some thing that you can inject in a certain amount of people where the majority of people are going to die, but there are going to be a few people who somewhere in their gene pool, their genetics merge with this medicine to create something new that gives them ability to be able to breathe a certain
This
element
sounds
of
completely
CO2.
fake to me.
I mean, it is.
I just want to be on record saying that.
All
That
this
sounds
is completely
totally
fake. I mean, all this. I'm talking about
You're
what
talking
if.
about, this is Maynard civilization here. So
Oh, okay.
this is what he's gonna do.
Yeah. Well, no, they haven't even gotten to
Is
my
this in
civil.
a
I'm just
different
talking
universe?
about.
The physics is
I'm
different.
talking about
in
the possibility. This is actually even pre my universe, like getting to that universe, right? Because we have to. We have to find a way to get there, right? So I'm thinking about what's the possibilities that could happen for us to actually physically get there to some alternate world that we'll be able to survive and thrive on that's much different than our current planet. So I'm just thinking about just kind
It
of.
doesn't have to be though. It could be a planet that's exactly the same. It's a copy,
Yeah.
like a carbon copy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So you don't have to like.
Deal with all that stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you still have to deal with figuring out how you're going to create the society
Mm-hmm.
that is, I don't know, like better than all the other societies that have
Yeah.
ever existed.
Because ultimately, you're just trying to improve on what we had here on Earth, right? You're trying to trying to eradicate all the bad things and trying to bring all the positives. Anyway, if you are looking at it from a good human perspective, right? That's what any good human would want to do. Is like, okay, there are benefits of our planet, of our society. How do we take those benefits? How do we eradicate all the disadvantages and all the negative things, right? So it's going to be a give and take somewhere.
My assertion is that cannot be done because in this moral and like this value judgment of good and bad, a lot of the things that we are considering bad are actually just natural things that humans will slide into because they were things that were helpful for us to survive and be fit,
Like
over
murder, killing ourselves, right?
Sure. I mean, I could
Yeah.
come up with an infinite number of examples where killing somebody else would be helpful for you surviving and passing on your genes.
Yeah.
Not as like a justification or, saying that that's something that I desire, but
Yeah.
I understand why that exists. I understand why people want to resource hoard. I understand why people are greedy. That makes sense to me. I understand why people steal. I can imagine that if there was a time where humans were experiencing like extreme scarcity because there was a drought or something, and the humans that were more likely to steal from another tribe or even their neighbor that gave them food. And so like from a mathematical perspective, like 1 + 1 = 2, I understand that. And it's like, how do we ultimately, I think what we would want to do is like suppress those genes that may have been necessary to allow those behaviors in the past. So because we live in a society now where that's not necessary. Like if wealth inequality wasn't so bad, then I think everybody on earth would actually have like what they needed. But because people still have the tendency to resource hoard, etc., then you have these extreme amounts of inequality and like low empathy and people just caring about themselves. So all these problems arise. And this is my argument, is that is an expression of what we genetically have inside of us. And for some people, that tendency may be stronger than others.
Yeah.
And obviously there's social conditioning as well. But I would argue that even the potential to behave in that way seems, at least in my opinion, to be like a genetic parameter space.
So ultimately, in any society, we have to accept a certain amount of loss, or like there has to be some baseline where we're like, this is okay. Killing a certain amount of people or whatever, like there's certain things that we have to be like we're good with it, and we kind of do that already in society, right? Like obviously, murder is deemed bad, but we also do have stand your ground laws, right? Because that's foundationally how we survive. That's how foundationally how we continue our gene pool is to protect ourselves. It's self-defense, right? And so we already, in a sense, already accept the baseline, like people are going to die in order for us to be able to advance and move forward as we all want to move forward as humans. Even though we have morals and values for the most part and most good people, but we also accept that, hey, certain people are going to have to go in order for us to be able to thrive as a society, right? And so I
What
think
if there was a society where everybody stayed alive and nobody knew was born?
and nobody
Wait,
knows what.
say that again.
A society where everybody was engineered in the way that they didn't age.
Oh,
and
so there
no
is
new
no
people.
new introduction of people.
No new introduction
Everybody
of
is
people.
just-
Everybody just becomes increasingly more skilled, more competent, more aware of how to navigate their
So
world.
death isn't a possible. So death isn't. We just have we just have a society of people that just live forever, just
then
immortal.
maybe
I
their
guarantee that
clones-
society would collapse.
I agree, but I'm just curious about the thought experiment. Like to decant their clones. Like, they die, they're just replaced with a clone that has a backup of their memories. And so there's not really like a turnover.
I
Why
think
does that
that's
collapse?
What was
I
that?
think
What was
that's
those are
interesting.
recent movies? Was it like Lucky Seven? Something Seven?
Mickey 17?
Mickey 17. Yeah. Mickey
Yeah.
17 was that kind of thing where
Oh,
he
yeah.
couldn't die, right? Like
and
he was.
he's like the property of this company. or
Yeah, he was a
something.
property of company, and so they'd have him do these, high risk tasks or whatever.
He would die all the
and
time.
They knew he would die,
they
but
would just
but
thaw
they
him out.
needed for human testing, right? They needed to know, okay, can we survive on this planet? We sent Mickey out there. Okay, he dies. Okay, we need to do some other experiment to figure out, okay, what works here. Ultimately, though, if you have it's a society of immortals, right? It's just immortal people that look. But what's the failure of being immortal, right? Like we ultimately don't have any value in anything. Like what do we value anymore? Life isn't valuable anymore because we can't die. So we don't. What do we hold precious? You
That's
know what I'm saying?
interesting. From a philosophical
From a
standpoint,
philosophical purpose, like
that
we
does something to the psychology.
like we are here in this room. We're all friends. We go out, we kick it, we hang, right? Because we value friendship because we have a short amount of time on this earth, right? We have family bonds, right? We go and we do epic things like you're going to go to Spain, right? And you're going to have that experience, it's going to be a life-changing experience. You meet people, you have relationships, you fall in love, all these different things because we know it's valuable because we're only here for a certain amount of time and we could be gone tomorrow. But if you're just a society of immortal people, there's never a risk for anything. I can go to any danger, whatever, and it's whatever. There's no value in my life anymore. And so, how does that affect a society as a whole? If you just have a civilization of people that don't really care about any emotional aspect that ties them to that life that they're living.
What if their goals become bigger? Like, what if our values are based on something that requires a longer time horizon? Like, I want to solve all the scientific mysteries of humanity. Like, that's a huge goal that would take many human lifetimes.
forever.
Yeah.
Forever in theory.
Yeah.
And that could be a pursuit that could fulfill a person.
But that's a
indefinitely.
person though. How many lifelong pursuits are there like that? And
I don't know. I'd argue
and why would you why would you
I
want
would
to
think so.
find that sign? Like what would be your motivation for trying to solve every scientific feat, right?
Curiosity.
Because
Yeah, I don't think that my curiosity, and I could be wrong about this because I'm a human, but I don't think that my curiosity is like funded by this knowledge that I'm gonna die one day.
Mhm.
There are probably some things in my life that are sort of motivated by that,
Yeah,
but
I'm
I
gonna
don't
be
think it's
salty.
my
Yeah,
curiosity.
I'm salty I'm going to die one day because I don't get to answer all my questions.
Mhm. Yeah, but you also kind of part of that curiosity, we want to answer those questions for a reason, right? We either want to help somebody or we want to make
don't know.
some sort of change or
I don't
something
know
like
if that. I don't know if that's true though.
You don't think so?
I think that curiosity itself is like one of these inherent traits that we have because we needed it.
Mhm.
You need it to like understand enough about the world to survive.
Mhm.
And so I think that it's not necessarily tied to, yes, in society today everything is tied to like deeper meaning, but that's because we have the privilege of not just needing to figure out how to not die day to day.
Mhm.
You know, for the most part, people are honestly like so secure and so comfortable that it kind of like bores you into depression if you're not challenging yourself or like sparking some sort of curiosity. So I don't think necessarily, I could be wrong, that the curiosity and the whys behind it is tied to the fact that we know that our lives are ending.
But think about this. Okay, so personalize it from your perspective, right? If you had the ability to you do exoplanet research, right? And you wanted
I do
like
have
you
that
want you
ability.
you do have the ability, right?
All
You
right,
do
thank-
what I'm saying. That's why I'm personalizing it to you. All right. You doing that research, right? On, let's say, what's your favorite exoplanet?
Wasp
Wasp
69b. You
I
knew it.
I know you.
You
I
knew
know
a part of
I
it.
know. I know.
I heard
know you.
70 come out
No,
first.
no, I was somewhere along the lines. I knew it was wasp something. All right.
Okay.
But there's only one. It's not like there's multiple wasps, right? Are there multiple?
there is.
Okay.
There are.
In
Okay.
fact, mine is the 69th in the catalog.
Okay.
So there's
Yeah,
many.
You
There's
you guys did one thing where you talked about the naming, how you
Yeah.
know. So, okay, we'll go down that. Okay, but you Wasp 69B. Okay, if you like, there's doing that research, doing that work, like wanting to know. I mean, ultimately, we want to know what exactly is that planet like, right? Is there, are there rocky aspects of it that are similar to Earth? What's really, we know a little bit about the atmosphere, but what components of the atmosphere, like what is their actual levels? Can humans possibly survive there, right? There's a certain element of wanting to discover that pushes you more because you want to know, if you can know within the next 40 years. Let's just say, like, let's say next 40, 50 years in your kind of main lifespan. You're gonna live for another. I'm not putting a limit on your time. Let's say you're living for another 50 years before you pass away, right? You want to answer these questions, right? There's a drive knowing that you have a limit to push you to want to answer these questions, right? Because I only have a certain amount of time. So I'm going to invest my energy. I'm going to talk to experts. We're going to make new discoveries. Anytime some telescope finds out something new, about these components of these exoplanets, I'm going to dive into the weeds of it and know more. Because I have this time limit here, right, on Earth. If I don't have a time limit, right, and I'm going to live forever, where is that drive, that curiosity to want to know more about the exoplanet going to stay with you? Because I could figure this out anytime I want to figure
actually,
out.
I could do this in a billion years. Like, maybe I'll do that later.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that, and I do recognize that perhaps is playing like some subconscious role. I would agree with that. But as a counter example, which is a slightly different thing, I would point out, for example, the fact that the universe is like practically infinite, and it may actually literally be infinite. It may be, like, we don't know that. And something like that in and of itself can produce sort of an existential crisis in a person that up until that point maybe had never thought about that and was really focused on like them sort of being the central focus of their lives, but also of everything. And when people talk about experience, like understanding that, wait a second, maybe none of this matters, which is what you're saying with the time thing, is like, man, maybe it doesn't matter what I do with my time because I have so much of it. That for some people that can be debilitating and sort of like shake their identity and worldview to a point where they sort of land in a depressive state where they're like, oh well, none of this even matters. Like, the universe is infinite. But that is not the feeling that I get. I find even more meaning in that, right? And so
You find more meaning in not knowing, and knowing that you have infinite time to be able to do anything.
Well, no, I think that is not something that pumps the brake on me. Like, I'm a driven person. The fact that I have a lot of time does not make me not want to do something. I don't think that, and I could be wrong.
But that's foundational, right? Because we know that we don't have time, right? Like, at our core, we know we're going to, like, it's given fact, right? Like, so we can only live with it out. So I'm thinking kind of existentially, right? Like I think we're all driven people. Like, we all have individual drive. We don't need to be motivated by others to do anything.
You think that dies just because
but
now we can live forever?
But we all of us naturally procrastinate in some aspect, right? If you know, like, oh shoot, we got this podcast that we're doing, like, and we have a week to be able to knock out all these episodes, you're gonna grind and grind and grind and piece together. You're gonna find people that support all these different things. You're gonna find an editor. You're gonna to get all this work done in a week because you know that that's your time limit, right? Are you gonna do all that stuff, same work in a week, if you know that I don't have to get this done until like 5-6 months from now? You're not gonna crash compile all of that. The time limit that you have drives you in a sense to be able to accomplish.
I agree with what
things.
you're saying. Yeah. I disagree that the urgency that we have for curiosity theory, for example, is a good example, is driven by the fact that me and Justin are gonna die one day. Because the reality is, we don't have to do this podcast. We don't have to like schedule a bunch of episodes in a week. We could put it off to next week. We could put it off to next month or next year. We could be doing that right now and still not like run up to death, right? The death component.
But death is just the ultimate end, right? I'm just talking about the immediate capacity of
that's what
knowing
I'm
we
saying.
have time limits, right? There's constraints to everything that we do.
You would still have those.
Yeah, I think there'd still be time constraints, even if everybody lives forever.
Forever. You think that we would still find what would those constraints be? What would give us the fuel to get it, the immediacy to get certain things done?
Well, here's something that comes to mind. If we never figure out how to travel faster than the speed of light, then people are traveling to different planets or different star systems. Then my interaction with you is going to be limited by like your availability at this current time. If I know you're going to be in Proxima Centauri B next week, well, oh dang, we got to get this done this week.
Yeah.
Because I know like maybe we have infinite time, but like I'm not going to see you again for another 40 years, and I still would rather get this done now.
You know you're teaching him. He's getting wise. He's knowing.
I didn't know anything before. Professor Tyler here has been endowing me with his great knowledge of how to think, how to think in general. So appreciate that, bro.
That's good. That's good. That's a true sign of growth right there. But actually, that in a certain element kind of changes my perspective slightly, because now I'm thinking about, okay, like one of the things I that always kind of blows my mind when we think about the vastness of the universe, right? We have galaxies that are billions of light years away, right? And that we know we'll never see in our lifetime. We just know that we are never going to get there. I'm not going to know what exists in some nebula somewhere, billions of light years away. But if we live forever, live infinitely, and we say, hey, we're going to send this group on this space capsule, right? It's gonna take us 1 billion years to get there, but we can live. What's the problem with Mars and other space? It's gonna take too long for us to be able to survive to get there. But if we know we can live forever and we can just send somebody on a ship, go here to this galaxy. This group go here to this galaxy, and we just discover what's out there. That does bring value, right? Because obviously not everybody's gonna want to do it, but I think we would want to go, right? If you can live forever and you can find out what is on WASP 69b, and you can go with a small group and take whatever time it's going to take to get there.
I know what's on WASP 69b.
Yeah.
It's a gas giant, so it's just got a bunch of gas. There's nothing for us.
Okay,
there.
but you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, like whatever. You're saying some life form could possibly exist there,
or other rocky planets that orbit other stars. Like, we don't know what they're like.
But like that.
You got to teach them, bro.
That would be.
You got to hang out with me.
That would be. But I don't think that. I think we can still. Life shouldn't just be limited to. Why is life just limited to rocky planets?
No, that's a good point.
Right? Like life could be like. Why can life be on a gas giant?
There could be forms of life that just kind of like fall out of what our biological sort of discrete understanding of the life that we have. I totally agree with that. Who knows?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Who knows what's on WASP 69? We don't know. We think we know based off what we see in our solar system, but there could be all sorts of other components there and life forms you don't know about. But the curiosity to want to discover that and know that, hey, this is gonna take me 1 billion years to get there, but I live forever, so I could actually get there and find out what it is. That drive could motivate you to go, even though we live forever, but to know that you will eventually solve some existential problem or question that you've had could drive you, even though you're still living forever. So I do see that. I do see that element. If there's something that is going to take that amount of time to solve, you willing to be able to invest in that and live forever just so you can be able to see that through could be motivation for sure.
And I think if, as humanity, we were able to open our minds to like, okay, what's a 10,000 year problem? What's a 10 million year problem? And like see all of these as in the realm of possibility of us being able to solve them or a group of us being able to solve them. I think that would be a more enlightened version of us, arguably.
I would say that we've crossed the boundary into no longer being human. Notoriously, we are short-sighted, and I think that that's probably tied to an evolutionary history where the number 10 million didn't even mean anything, which is why we're so bad at like imagining these long time scales or these big numbers. Yeah. It was like more so you're worried about like, what are you going to be doing in 10 hours or maybe 10 days or maybe like 10 months. But it gets like so hard that I wonder what the psychology is for a human who's on a ship that's going to take 1 billion years to like get to the next galaxy or something. And like, is that even a sustainable, people go crazy when they're like trapped somewhere for too long. Yeah. They ran an experiment in like one of these Mars simulation habitats to see how people, if they could just live with other humans on in a little habitat.
So I visited that.
Oh, for real?
The Mars Desert Research Station in Utah. Yeah, it was for the show I filmed with Al Roker.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that were there for the research, because there's always like different research groups that are there. Yeah. This group had a bunch of mental health professionals. Because like that's one of the most needed professions when you have people that are dealing with this kind of new challenge. Yeah. And like trying to navigate, like everyone knows that that's going to be a problem. And so it's like, how do you need like really competent mental health professionals to even be able to address that.
Yeah. But you're right though. I think we do now cross this line of not being human anymore because think about it. If it's going to take 1 billion years, I don't know how long it's going to take to get to Wasp, but it's going to take 1 billion years to get there. The day-to-day doesn't matter anymore. Like we go to sleep 8 hours or whatever, we wake up, we do our day-to-day things, we eat, read, whatever tasks or whatever. But if you're traveling for 1 billion years, is your sleep cycle isn't 8 hours anymore because why is your body going to expend the energy for those rest of those hours to survive?
You'd almost go into stasis for billions of years or something.
Yeah. You could sleep. Your sleep cycle could become 1 million years. Whatever. You sleep for 1 million years and you wake up for whatever, I don't know, 10 minutes.
That sounds
whatever.
Fire.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, all this like daily routine stuff is primitive to me anyway. Waking up, trying to like do stuff at a certain like I don't know,
hustle
man.
Culture that
it's hustle culture. It seems like kind of lowbrow stuff when you really are like, I'm on like this 1 million year routine. Every 1,000 years, I got this thing.
But think about how you evolve now. If you are sleeping 1 million years at a time, there's no need for your heart to pump the same way. There's no need for your blood vessels to be the similar size or whatever. Like we lose physically the traits that actually make us human because we don't need them anymore.
Yeah, the biology.
We can almost become just a blob. Like we could evolve into just a mass. Literally just a mass of whatever
primordial mass. It sounds freeing. Sounds freeing to me.
Right, literally. Like you think about deep sea organisms, right? A blobfish. The first that came up was a blobfish, right? It's like or any other deep sea like organism, right? You lose certain skeletal structures, right? You lose certain components. You lose your ability to see because you don't need. There's no light, right? So what are your eyes for? You don't need to have eyes anymore because you don't need to see. Would we lose our abilities? What are we seeing? For millions of years, we're not looking at anything. Why do we need our eyes anymore? Like we would actually evolve into something that's not human at some point.
Okay, exactly. And so this is why I think that a society like that would collapse. Is that built into? We don't think about this because we're individuals that want to survive. I think that built into the overall success of any life form is the need to evolve, right? What is evolution? It's the new batch that can be a little bit different than the old batch. And sometimes those differences are very helpful. Sometimes they're harmful. And sometimes they're completely benign. And if you are not producing new individuals that have this diversity of whatever thought, physical capabilities or whatever, then you don't have the ability to lose your eyesight when you're at the bottom of the ocean. You don't have the ability to evolve the biology to even live at such a deep pressure. And so I think that in something like a society, which I do characterize as sort of a living thing, has like the properties of emergent properties of something that's living, is that it's absolutely required for things to die, because that's the only way that, think about the next generation, for them to like sort of figure out the best fit mold into the current environment. And
Mm-hmm.
so you imagine, if we just do a thought experiment with humans, imagine that the all of the people who were alive in feudal Europe, when there was like kings and peasants, imagine that none of them ever died, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would society look like today? Well, surely it would be like some sort of version of that that's not so different.
Mm-hmm.
But what's necessary for societal progression is sort of out with the old, in with the new.
But why
Mm-hmm.
does that have to occur by death and then rebirth? Why couldn't we engineer that into a society in other ways?
That
Because I think sometimes like evolution, right? Like evolution will naturally, right, eliminate some of those traits or whatever, bring new traits in. But also death death in an aspect makes us learn like, oh, okay, we can't do this anymore, right? You go back to you talk about in feudal Europe or whatever. We had the Black Plague, right? The Black Plague eradicated how many millions of people, tens of millions of people across the globe. But we learned a lot from the Black Plague. We learned, oh shoot, this is how diseases spread. Oh, we can't touch these things and then go and pass them around. Right? We learned all these new things that now, even though we lost, well, I can't remember, there was some percent like we lost like half the society or whatever, right? During like the Black Plague.
I
But
think it
then
was
from
like
there,
a third of Europe, and
mhm,
in the Americas, it was something like 9 out of 10.
right? And so from there, like we were forced in that period of time, just like we had in not to that scale, but over COVID, right? We learned so many different things, and now we utilize those things that we learned in such a short amount of time to now quickly evolve to know, okay, we got to do this. There's so many things that now have happened post Black Plague that helped us as a society, and a lot of things that happened post COVID as well too that also
Yeah, I just
changed us
don't
as a
think
society.
any of these things that you have mentioned have required or necessitated death at all. I think that there are abilities like our brains become less plastic as we age, but we could, in theory, bioengineer more neuroplasticity and continue to be more adaptable, and we could face adversity and react to it, and then be like, okay, we have to change.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think
I
that requires death.
I disagree. I agree with what you said, that presumably every medical, biological challenge could be sort of like out engineered. I totally agree with you on that. Where I disagree is that the psychology of an individual or a group of people is sort of dynamic enough to get that in the same way that a group of young people would be. So, like, for example, we have different generations, right? And one thing about a younger generation is that they always hate the older generation.
Yeah.
And so, one thing that arises
I mean,
that I
hate's a strong word.
no, I don't think so. I don't think
Yeah.
it is. I think that they
Yeah.
think that they're lame. They think that they're losers. They think that they're selfish. They think that they're superior and entitled. This is what young people always think about old people, every generation. And so there's this urge that, it seems like it comes from us, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was biologically hardwired into us to sort of rebel or resist against the generation before us. And that leads to a lot of crazy things like a revolution, but it leads to a lot of progress, social progress in the way that we see certain things that I don't believe we would have gotten to had it been the case that the new generation wants to just simply emulate the older generation, which is what I would consider in sort of an immortal species to be like, because there is no new generation. Like, your ideas are the ideas, of yourself in the future. And I think that there may be, I'm just saying this. I don't know if this is true or not, but I think that there is probably a lot of inherent like value in the physics of life of having newcomers that sort of oppose the old comers for no other reason except in that sometimes this will lead to progression. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I see what you're saying, and I think it kind of taps back into because you said, okay, we could just bioengineer these things out of us, whatever. But where's the drive to bioengineer those things out of us if we don't know that we're going to die, right? Us having that time frame or that time limit is that motivation to bioengineer these aspects out of us because we know if we have them, we are going to ultimately die. You know what I'm saying? And so it's kind of a catch-22 in that sense because you have to have that wherewithal of knowing that there's a time constraint to your survival that forces you to now want to do these things to change us holistically?
I don't know. I feel like I could just bioengineer all the things at the same time in theory. Like lifespan, biologically, I'm like the age 20, right? With neuroplasticity wise, I'm like age 20, 21. Lifespan wise, I could just do all the things like basically like a whole software update, do all the stuff at the same time.
Wait, did you just say you stay 20, 21 forever?
Neurologically,
Neurologically? Is that the
yeah.
prime? Is that
I'm
the
not
prime
saying it's the
age?
prime. I'm just saying like it's an age in which you have a more plastic brain, and you're able
You're
to
more
like, adapt.
moldable.
Correct.
I saw some studies some recently about like adolescence could actually proceed
Into
into your
32.
30s.
32 is I think it's like
Yeah.
an emerging study.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure exactly. You know, I don't feel like I read the whole paper.
Yeah, I
but
didn't read the whole thing.
but yeah, I think it's interesting because yeah, I just feel like progression in society doesn't necessarily necessitate a younger generation wanting to subvert an older generation. Like I feel like progression in society could happen by other means.
I'm just saying that if you look at all of human history, that's always how it's happened.
That's how it's historically happened. But what if we aspired to something greater, something bigger,
Yeah.
something less subversive?
So that's like, do you think that you can out engineer nature? And I personally don't think that that's possible. But if you think that it is, then you could create like this magical thing. But I think that, this is just like the way that I think about it is that you need things to snake back and forth. Like you need that. Politically, we have to have this pendulum, or you go infinitely in one direction. Like you have to, I think that you have to have this. You need generations that doesn't want to be like the old generation. And sometimes you'll get bad stuff that happens, but luckily it's going to swing back the other way.
Why do you need that?
Huh?
Why is that necessary?
Why is what necessary?
The pendulum effect of cultural movements. Why is that a prerequisite?
Well, I would say for two things. One, it seems like that's how everything works. Things oscillate in the universe. Almost everything moves back and forth. But two, and for the bigger reason, it's that you are not guaranteed to be on a trajectory towards ultimate success. I don't think that that exists. And so people move a certain way. Okay, people get older, and then the older people get more money. And then what happens to the people with the most money? They get more money. And then they get more money. And then eventually you end up with this time, for example, in France around the revolution, where you have this tiny group of people that has all of the wealth. And what naturally happens is that, this group of people who came up has a revolution. And this like offsets this infinite direction that everything was going in. And it's not like, I see what you're saying. But I just think that is the way that it works out is that this oscillation ends up sweeping you into better directions through just potential of like diversity. It's like, why do you need, why are you slightly different than both of your parents? Why is it good to mix genes like that? Because you're going to produce some new things, some new ideas, maybe some new like body morphologies or something. And the chances are that in the given environment, that's going to help those people survive. And then you'll see populations of people that literally become physiologically different. Well, it's like, well, why do you need that? Why didn't everybody just stay the same forever? I mean, that's just not how evolution works. Like things are more or less fit based on the environment.
Yeah. Well, I think this kind of comes out. I think this kind of leads back to a fundamental flaw of our of a kind of a thought experiment, right? Of this kind of immortal society, right? On this new world or whatever, because that society in order for that to work, that like it has to be kind of almost Big Bang effect. Like that society has to start boom like this. Like we wake up in the next instantaneous moment, we're all just immortal and this is how we survive, right? If it's a progression thing, then it goes back to what you're saying, right? Because you have to kind of have these natural pendulum swings and whatnot. But going back to like you're saying, like we can't out-engineer nature. I'm completely with you. Like we can't out-engineer nature. But if we are projecting to be this like immortal society or whatever, at that point, like we have to accept that we've already out-engineered nature, right? That now we are in full control of what beings we are at some point, right? And so I think that ultimately becomes the flaw in this experiment is like the time frame of this happening, of us being immortal. If it's a thing where like, somebody we're whatever, we're all living society, whatever, and then like you guys start aging or whatever, and I'm still here. I'm still look like me. It's been 10 years now. Hey, man, you haven't changed. You're like Pharrell out here. Like you still look the same. This 40 years from now, and I'm still. People start being like, "What is going on? Like, why have you not aged?" And then I start realizing, like, oh, something happened in my school, and now Journey has it, right, and my daughter, right, and so now we have two immortal, and she grows up, and then now you have this progression of like we're slowly getting these mortal people, and then now society starts to like, oh, they're immortals out here, just like you would like in the mutants, right, in X-Men, right, you're gonna have normal people, and then you have mutants, right, you're gonna have normal people, you're gonna have immortals, and then now there becomes this whole societal type of aspect of like, oh, how do we treat these people? Do saying now do these immortals have this certain power over us of our species? How much time frame does that happen? Is it going to be a revolution that's going to change our mindset of how we look at time and all? So I'm saying, so there has to be now this progression to lead us to that immortal society in some way that's going to cause turmoil and kind of destruction for the rest of society, right? And lead to some ultimate fate for the rest of society. Or is this position of us becoming immortal an instantaneous thing where it just happens and we're all immortal and we're all starting on the same page?
Like a spaceship full of embryos, drop them on the planet, they're all immortal.
Yeah, I would still argue that your society would fail for lack of ability to adapt and change. I just predicted that would happen, but and I don't really see why it wouldn't, other than you just saying that it wouldn't.
And then going back to because I'm really still stuck on the traveling to WASP 69B, right? Like
this is like 416 light years away, or something.
416 light years away,
something like that, or 460, I forget.
Right. So you have to also assume that for 406, based off of your current mindset, right? This curiosity that you have about this exoplanet, is that going to exist for 419 light years, right? Like, is that that amount of time, is that curiosity going to stay with you? Is that going to evolve with you as you transcend into some other, as we naturally evolve into some other being into that time frame, right? Is that curiosity going to stay with you? Just going to get to a point where like, man, I don't really care much more about this planet.
That's like my planet. That's my baby. That's like my biggest discovery. I'm not interested in going there. I was never curious about that. That was like an idea about traveling.
What you're trying to say is if you were.
Assuming
that like you.
But wait, are you saying you'd have if you could go, you'd have no desire to go?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not if I had to travel for like 30,000
years. But you're mortal.
But that doesn't mean that that's what I want to do with my time.
Oh, okay.
We're assuming that like because you're immortal that you have drive to do anything.
No, I was assuming that because this goes back to what you said, because I'm assuming we're all immortal now, and all we're doing is we're solving these long-term problems, or the curiosity that we had that we know is going to take us billions of years to figure out, because that's all we have to live for, because there's no immediacy. If you're living immortal, I don't need to make my podcast in the next hour because I can do this anytime or whatever, right? So now we've gone past these little minute problems that we as regular humans experience. Now you're thinking greater. Now you're thinking, oh, this is built. Your timeline is much different. So now you're only solving things that are only going to literally take you billions of years to figure out. So that's where the mindset change comes. You know what I'm saying? Is that curiosity going to stay with you for billions of years because that's the time frame that you have to live within of the type of problems that you want to solve now.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you on that. I think that it's the I don't think I want that for myself, like immortality.
So you're arguing that our minds can change, or like you're saying like there's a chance that our minds would change so much that we wouldn't have the same curiosity.
Yeah, I'm like thinking now psychologically, right? Even though now that we're mortal.
But that almost sounds like progress in the way that you all are defining with like life and death.
Yeah. Well, I think that would just break our psychology because we're not, and then we're not humans anymore.
We're not. Yeah.
I don't think that matters as much.
Not being human?
I think that is an arbitrary line that could be defined in a lot of different ways.
What a human is?
I mean, based on like if we start incorporating things like genetic engineering into like if you get somebody else's heart into you, I mean, or let's say you get like a pig heart. Implanted into you. I think there's
which we're doing.
Yeah, we're doing that, right? Like that person's still a human, right? But they have a pig's heart. You know what I mean? So the line starts to get blurry, I think, as more and more parts of us become replaceable and engineerable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think
That's
that a
yeah.
physical
That's
component is a little bit different, more different than like a mental or a psychological component.
mhm.
Because I like the pig example. Let's say I replace your brain with a pig brain. Are you still a human? I would say no. I would say no,
Mhm.
you're not.
Mm-hmm. But what if like now we know so much about neurology, right? There are obviously similarities within the pig's brains and ours, right? What if you replace the actual physical organ itself, but now you're able to tap into the neurological components of that to be able to still give you the human skills that you need, the things that you still need to think like a human. It's just that the physical organ itself is not a human brain. It's a pig brain, but we just change it neurologically to make it do what we want it to do as humans to help us function tasks as humans. So we're still human, but we just have a different body part that we change the neurology of it to be able to give us the same functions.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're saying that we live in a world where you can take any brain of anything and make it identical to a human brain, then I
Yeah,
would
that's
argue that you've created a human brain, which is human. But that's
mhm,
not, I mean, if you take a pig's heart and make it identical to a human's heart,
mhm.
then it's like basically the same thing.
Yeah, but right now we're doing that because it has many similarities. It's
It's
able to
pumping
function.
blood.
Yeah, it's able to do the
So,
function of a human heart, which is all it needs to do is the
okay.
function of a
Well,
human heart.
functionally, I think that hearts of different animals may have like a smaller delta than
Mhm,
brains of different animals.
mhm,
And I think that it's a very different thing to say, like, oh, well, we could just swap your nervous system out with the nervous system of a pig
mhm.
and then you'll be the same. But I do think that maybe like a pig, there's like less of a leap there
Yeah,
with a
but we do that
heart.
technologically though, right? Like if I'm gonna have a brain to computer interface, right? It's not a human brain anymore. Now I have the power. Now I have the power of a
It's not a pig brain.
supercomputer. Yeah, but does that make you less human now because you have a supercomputer for a brain?
That's interesting. I would say yes,
Mm-hmm.
but not in like a value way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that that makes you less like a, if you've been spliced with all these like biotic upgrades, I
Mm-hmm.
would say that yeah, that does make you are like
Yeah, you
less human.
physically change. Now we're cyborgs.
Right.
Now we're
So,
cyborgs,
like, if
right?
you're
Because we
saying,
have a robotic arm, we have a supercomputer for a brain, we have a pig heart, we have whatever
does it
a
still
Still
rabbit
got the
foot.
big heart.
I don't know.
And a rabbit
okay,
foot.
but like, does it matter if it's an augmentation or deficiency? So, for example, like a stroke victim would lose a significant percentage of their brain functionality. Probably, let's say, for example, that they only half of their brain like lights up and has neurological activity. If you had like half of your brain replaced with AI,
Mhm.
you know,
To make up for what you lost, right?
Right.
So it's not like you're not now some super genius and you're able to calculate algorithms or whatnot in your head, but
Mhm.
they just found a way to be able to make up for what you lost
So
neurologically
replace
for your
those
stroke.
neurons or whatever,
Yeah,
but
so
digitally.
now you're back to normal human level, but at the same time, now I'm thinking from the cyborg effect. So now you have that to make up for your stroke that you lost, but you also have a pig heart because you need to get a heart replacement.
Bro wants a
Okay,
pig heart
but now
bad, man.
I love the pig heart aspect. But now we could also regenerate limbs, right? And so you lost your leg in a car accident, but now you have a new leg because you're able to regrow it in a lab. So it's not your actual
what a traumatic
original
life
leg,
this
but
I
now
know,
it's,
right?
but now that person is still a human, right? They're just made up of different components that we now use our technology and our biotechnology to be able to solve these problems that they had.
So I think that I hear what you're saying, and I like agree with that argument. But I think that if we now had textbooks and or like that we're doing like taxonomic groups,
Mhm.
I think that you have crossed a line where this is actually something different than what you would call a human. This
Mhm.
is like something whatever it is, and you're gonna call it a cyborg.
what's the
Then I would
line?
say that
Where's the line?
well, what's the line for anything?
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's arbitrary.
Does it become like, oh, how many parts of your body need to be replaced for you to not be human anymore?
Which is a question we.
So I guess the prompt was you're a human, you live in a society, you're starting a society of humans,
Mhm.
and if your first response is I'm gonna make everybody cyborgs, then I would say that's just not human. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I
Mhm.
just don't, I'm just saying that that's not human. Like
Yeah.
if you psychologically being prepared to sit on a ship by yourself for 1 billion years to get somewhere, like that's
Mhm.
not a human can't do that.
So what's a
Mhm.
cyborg? A human that's physically augmented by technology?
I don't know. I would
Mhm.
Like that's a person with a pacemaker.
Mhm.
A cyborg.
Yeah.
You
And
think?
Well, I don't. I just again, I think these lines are just really hard to define.
Yeah, because
But at some
ultimately,
point
too,
they become obvious to define. Like the line between animals can be hard to define, but there is a line somewhere where it's obvious, like life. Things that are living are all genetically close to one another. But I think that we can look at a mushroom and a chimpanzee, and we say, okay, the line may be arbitrary, but there's a line somewhere. Maybe it's like, oh, fungi. I don't know much about them, but they have like these traits, and like chimpanzees have these traits.
Well, I think it just becomes a slippery slope as technology continues to innovate, right? Like what I think of is the example with AI and the Turing test, and how it was like, oh, all these AI
yeah.
models are great, but like none of them can pass the Turing test, so none of them are even like close to being conscious like we are.
Then they blew past it.
Then they blew past that a while back now,
Yeah.
and like we're like, oh, well, that line is actually here.
Yeah,
so
it's
they-
like,
yeah, keep
the
moving the
Turing
line.
test wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
Right, so I feel like that's what would happen inevitably if we augment ourselves, is that this line of what distinguishes a human from a non-human or a cyborg or genetically enhanced, I think
Yeah.
they're all just kind of like arbitrary things.
Because everything
I agree
at
with
some
that.
point,
I agree with
everything because this whole take now becomes a slippery slope, right? Because now if we are immortals, we're not really human anymore,
Yeah.
right? Because we've kind of lost what makes us human, which is life and death, right? Like at some point we're going to die,
would say that-
and we're going to die and then evolve and could pass that gene on to
Yeah.
our next generation. That's what makes us human.
I would say
And if
that's
we-
what makes something living at all.
Well, there's like
Life.
like-
This is a property of life.
well,
as
there's
far
like
as we know.
lobsters and jellyfish that are like.
There's never been a
biologically-
lobster that's lived forever.
That's because it
Well,
was
you do have
killed by
immortal
Okay,
jellyfish.
so they die.
You do have immortal jellyfish.
Well,
There are
those and a biologically immortal human could die too. Could still be killed.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, there's not an example. Like, somebody would have to show me the jellyfish that has lived forever.
no, there literally is an immortal. I
no.
don't know that.
I
don't
hear
know
what
the,
you're saying. Show me the one that has been alive for. How old is the oldest one? Do they know?
What-
There's like a life cycle.
It's like it's still a life cycle. I don't know the details. I don't know the biology of this.
I actually do.
But
actually do.
You do?
I studied,
Okay,
I
go
studied
ahead.
in undergrad. So there's like the Medusa phase, which is like what we know as a jellyfish, right? But that's like one of the parts of the life cycle of the jellyfish. So how jellyfish are born is actually it's like a stack of polyps, which are like basically like tiny Medusa, like little circles with like little like fingers sticking out, and they're all
Sounds
stacked on top
gross.
of each other upside down. So there's really cool videos you can find on the internet
Yeah.
of the polyps like from the top, like popping off of the stack and then becoming a little Medusa. And then what I don't remember though is how the Medusa reverts back into the polyp. I think at a certain point in its life cycle, it kind of like goes back into the ground or something like that, and then it like reverts into that stage. I
Yeah.
can't
Okay,
remember
and so how
exactly.
long has the longest living one of those?
well, I
been?
don't know.
All right, so that's a huge. To me, that's like a very critical point to be able to make in me saying that they don't live forever. Because like, how long does that? Is there one that's been doing that for 100 million years?
Theoretically.
No. Practically, is there one that has really been doing that?
But the
for
thing is,
100
I don't know.
million
We don't
years?
know enough about how that life cycle
All right,
works
so-
to know where it began, right? Because at some point we just discovered this, right? And so we can't date it back to know we can give an age to other things. We can give an age to coral
look it up.
reefs. We could give an age to a shark or whatever because we know we can look at these traits. We can actually dive into his genes and see how long it's lived. We can't necessarily do that because we don't know what that starting point
So
was
what's the
for
point
this
of
because
making
of
the claim that they live forever?
because I think they're
it's
only claiming
100%
that
unsubstantiated.
because they're only claiming that because they know how this life cycle progresses, that it doesn't actually die, it just reverts back to this like polyp stage.
So they don't
You know what I'm
reproduce?
saying? It's not, but it's not like it's not. I don't know that. I don't know enough of this to.
Hopefully we get some-
he's diving into his
Yeah,
back.
I'm trying to fact check it, but it's taking a long time.
Yeah,
to
but
do.
we know
So it
that it
doesn't sound like-
reverts. We
So
know that it
this doesn't
reverts
sound
back
like
to
a
the
fact-based
stage.
conversation. Really.
If it takes a little time to figure out what the facts are, it doesn't mean that the facts aren't there.
Yeah, I didn't do a deep dive into the notes, but like I know that how the study was done. It just knows that it reverts back
Yeah,
to
here it
this
is.
polyp stage and that continues and repeats this cycle
Yeah.
over and over again. It never truly
I'm not doubting that
dies.
at all. What I'm doubting
But I don't
is
know
that
how
there's
they-
one that's been alive for like
I don't know
millions
how
of
you
years.
would date that to
Yeah,
be able
so
to
So then how
find
can
out
you
where
even
you-
make the claim? How do you know that they
Well, just
aren't good
based
for
on-
like a few cycles?
Kind of the same way that we extrapolate stuff about like the universe.
It's
from
not the
stars.
same though. It's not
So-
the same.
Well, so I learned here about like exactly how it works. So the medusa of the species can be physically damaged or experiences stresses like starvation, where it's like running out of food, and instead of just keeling over and dying, it like shrinks down into a like cyst version of itself and then settles onto the sea floor. At which point it develops into a new polyp.
Okay.
And then these things start budding up,
Mhm.
and then the medusae bud off of that, and then those
Okay.
medusae, when they experience stress.
So how is that the continuation of one thing? When humans get together, they produce a baby. It's a little polyp human, and that human carries on the genes from the individuals. So this is not the same thing as one life form dying or like reverting back to an infantile state and then coming back to life, I would argue, based on what you said.
Yeah, I mean, but it's almost like more effective than that. in
Well, that's
theory.
fine.
Yeah.
It would be. Would it be? What would be the human comparison of it though? Would it be us now? Like I food resources are low, whatever. Some condition happens, and I would now resort back to like an embryonic stage
And then
or whatever.
well,
And
no,
then
I think it would be basically you run out of food, so then you get into the fetal position on the ground, and then you split up into 5
I would
Maynard
get into a
fetuses.
fetal position. If I
And
ran
they're
out of food.
are they genetically identical?
Genetically identical Maynard fetuses
Mhm.
that then start running away slowly as resources become more abundant.
I'm getting this whole image of my little polyps of myself running
that's-
around.
To me, that's different than what we were saying.
Like biological immortality.
Yeah, that's different.
Because
To me, that's different.
because now that's a form of reproduction. Now, if you're creating
It's just reproduction.
new,
Yeah, I think lobsters
Polyps.
are arguably more biologically immortal in the traditional sense of like they just don't die unless they die from external causes.
But they do. If they get
Wait a
too
minute.
big, they die.
yeah, lobsters that at some point die.
They grow. They get which is like what I'm saying. Like
Like
I
we
know
can
what you're
kill a
talking
like
about.
I killed a lobster the other day. I ate one for Thanksgiving. That lobster
Nah,
is
bro.
gone. It's not alive anymore.
You ate lobster for Thanksgiving?
Oh yeah, we had a seafood broil for Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Oh,
that actually might be a myth, like the biological immortality of lobsters. That is
Oh,
like a
I'm
commonly
not
stated
shocked
thing.
that I was actually right about both of the points that I just
I
made.
just don't,
here.
the jellyfish thing. I don't know if I can.
I need it.
agree with
Yeah,
you,
we
so-
need you need to bring that jellyfish expert or whatever to come in here to explain.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I
we
would
can
love
talk
to
about
know more of the details of how that actually works and why that's different. Because I get what you're saying, and like, how is that different than just reproduction? Right, it's asexual reproduction, and you just continue to now regenerate and grow new things. So, how do you know that specific individual is the same from the beginning of whenever their species?
And I would
existed?
I would like accept that it was if there was like some way to like some evidence. There should be a way to prove it. Like you should be able to. I don't know. Like we probably haven't mapped the genome of these jellyfish because that seems kind of pointless. Other than to answer this question.
Yeah.
But like I would if they were identical copies. Even then, though, I don't know if I would say that that's the same thing because there are a lot of animals that
There are a lot of
reproduce.
animals that have identical
Asexual, like
copies or whatever.
asexual
Yeah,
reproduction.
yeah. But that doesn't make whatever that they just produce now that same organism.
bro.
It's a
Well,
completely
it's nice
different
to
organism.
nice to pull you over to the critical thinking side.
Yeah, well, he's still
I
an
can al-
Android user too. By the way,
I can always yeah.
critical think. I was saying like every person that has an Android is also a critical thinker. And there are some critical thinkers that don't have Androids, but every single Android user is also a critical thinker.
Yeah, I would disagree with that 100%.
I would have to do
But
that.
I'll be honest with you.
I could probably go through a line of people that have Androids that aren't a critical thinker
Yeah,
whatsoever.
I was
in some
saying it
aspects.
facetiously.
I don't trust people that much to
Yeah,
think
most
that
of the world, like I think something that Apple users kind of like they just completely disregard and probably just don't understand from ignorance is that most of the world uses Android. Like that's the most popular operating system in
is.
the world.
So you're making like an argument of commonality?
Well, I think most Apple users make arguments of commonality.
I think
You
most
should
Apple
say this
users
because
don't care.
I'm not even gonna go into the hate, but my only beef that I get with iPhone users is kind of almost this willful ignorance to other things that exist.
Yeah.
I meet so many people that see my phone, they're like, "What?" They look at it like it's like
flips?
some
You have it?
what?
You have it?
Yeah, I'm like,
Oh my God, a phone that flips.
oh my God, what
Like,
is
yeah, bro,
what
this is-
phone is that? Is that an Android? Or do, like people
like
look
a
at it
Game
like it's
Boy.
like people look at it like it's some mystical
Loser. Put your game away, man.
That's a great
But
phone. Too,
this
man.
amazing phone. I love this one. Everybody looks
Yeah.
at it like, "How your camera's so amazing." I'm like,
Yeah,
I
we've
I
had
know.
that for a long time. But like, yeah,
Bro.
iPhone users will
But it's like-
willfully ignore the world.
But even for me as an Android user, like I'm very up to. I know what's going on with iPhones. I know how iPhones work. I know how to operate an iPhone. I know kind of the timeline of iPhones and becoming. If somebody can pull out iPhone and I don't look at it like, oh my god, what foreign device is that? You know what I'm saying? But every
they're usually
time
outdated.
somebody that doesn't have it, like they look at this and they're like, oh my goodness, that exists.
Mm.
What was it's like? Are you just living in your iPhone bubble? You don't know that there are other phones out here,
So
other
that's a
technology
Part
that
of it.
exists.
They indoctrinate them, keep them in the
An,
bubble.
an interesting thing that I've noticed about Android users is they're hyper vigilant about trying to find ways that they're superior to iPhone users.
That's interesting because I feel the same way about
I mean,
iPhone
I
users.
don't think so, bro. I don't care. This to me, this feels like a beef. You know, I've been in LA for SoCal for a while. It's like there's this beef between the Bay and like San Francisco, like NorCal and SoCal, but it's a beef that only the people in San Francisco care about. Like nobody in SoCal cares. There is no beef.
Wait,
They don't like
is there
think
beef
about.
with SoCal and NorCal? What's
Yeah,
it?
it's like people from they think it's so much better than Southern California. Like if you from California, are you familiar with this?
Yeah.
Okay,
Is
so
it
from
thing?
there's
Okay.
like
I grew up like caring because I was from here, but when I went to Berkeley, everyone was like, "Fuck SoCal."
yeah,
Oh wow.
and
But
that's like a real.
I could kind of see.
And
NorCal
right now,
having that
and
elitist
like
kind of-
Android is NorCal, and it seems like iPhone is SoCal, and it's like there's this imagined beef, and it's like who cares?
Yeah, iPhone's definitely.
Yeah, bro, you have a
SoCal.
Game Boy you can make calls on. You're like that's pretty dope, bro. That's sick.
No,
I like
yeah,
Mario
iPhone
Kart.
is definitely SoCal because it's all about aesthetics and a perception of like prestige that doesn't actually exist.
Mhm.
I would agree with that, too.
And I could argue that if you're gonna go from that comparison, that the iPhone users don't care because they feel like there's such an elite. Like I don't have to worry. I don't have no worries about what other things exist or what other complications are around me because I'm not a part of it. I'm in my ecosystem and I'm stuck here.
What makes it
And
simple?
Well, it makes it simple, but it's also kind of you're also just stuck
Yeah,
into your own
It's
world as well
called
too.
blissful ignorance. There's some people that like to be blissful ignorant, and then there's some critical thinkers.
Yeah.
You know, that like
Well,
to use Android.
Some people like to apply their critical thinking, their creative thinking powers to anything besides what kind of phone they have.
Mhm.
But if it's
Yeah,
important for you to stand out as like
you could-
superior, I get why.
it's only one soapbox I'll stand on. I have many soapboxes. I can stand on a lot of different boxes. I can stand on multiple boxes at the same time. I can argue this, and I can also have something else that I'm critically thinking about.
But that's a hallmark of an Android user. That's what I would say. Like iPhone users are usually more
God.
one-dimensional.
Y'all just can't stop jerking each other off. And on that note, it's been great. Thank you for joining us.
It's a
at
good, it's a
Curiosity
good
Theory.
jerk off. I'll admit though, it is a good jerk off. I'll take this jerk off anytime.
Hold up. All right. But no, I think it's about time. So appreciate having you, Maynard, as
Yeah,
always.
that's awesome.
You want to let people know like where to follow you and stuff?
At Hip Hop Science Show is my platform on all social channels. Some people might find my platform Maynard's Wild World of Science. I do a lot of kids content as well too on YouTube. So go check that out.
Do you want to plug
Yeah,
your
I was
book?
gonna say. Tell me
Oh
about your book.
yeah. I do have.
got your-
I know
go
you.
right here. You're on
I
this
know
camera right
you're.
here.
I know you're joining me in the author world pretty soon. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see yours. But I actually got my.
Justin as well.
I got my okay. See, look at that. We out here doing the work. So this is my upcoming book. It releases March 3rd of 2026. Zombie spiders and asteroid blasters: 16 incredible ways scientists are changing the world. Super excited about this book. It's really kind of an embodiment of a lot of the content that I already share on my social channels, which is kind of showcasing mind-blowing science and research that, you know, it's kind of off kilter, right? Not away from the norm, right? And kind of showcasing different unique career paths that people are undertaking. And so I interviewed 16 scientists that are doing really dope research in all areas, from robotics to deep sea research and astrophysics and everything in between. And it kind of shows the wonders of that research work, and then also how it's being able to change the world. And it's all kind of narrated by myself in an animated character, you know, headphones and all, running through
Fire.
all these crazy science
it's fire,
situations and breaking down dope facts. And
So
so
it looks beautiful.
super
So
excited
it's,
about
like,
it, man. Yeah, I'll
super
let you guys kind of run
well-designed.
through it. But I just got my first physical copy of this, and super hyped about it. I'm going on a book tour in March,
Okay.
so already mapping out dates. I already got a bunch of museums.
Yeah.
Science centers already backing the tour. So I'm gonna be doing book signings all across the country. So maybe showing up at a school, classroom, and museum near you someday. So
Nice. Dope, bro.
Zombie Spiders, Asteroid Blasters is available for pre-order right now at pretty much every platform. So yeah, man, appreciate
Definitely got to cop it. Appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dope.
Cool. And then you want to jump into?
Yeah. Are we good on closing? Should we say something else? What do we use? Don't we usually?
You guys don't
say,
have
like,
you guys don't have a
stay
closeout yet.
We do
at
have
this
a
stage?
closeout. We do have a closeout. Actually, we're gonna probably leave all this in. As always, everybody. Despite all the complications, despite the iPhone users, and of course the superiority of Android users, as always, stay curious.
Peace.